Again, welcome everyone to another Lunch and Learn in our ongoing Financial Friday series. Sainies is excited to offer these sessions in cooperation with our corporate partner, Equitable Advisors. Equitable has a long-standing presence in New York, and a large portion of Equitable's New York client base is built upon the work they do within the public education system. Through Equitable, Sainies members can receive competitive insurance rates and a full array of retirement services, including a complimentary financial profile for Sainies members, which we urge you to take advantage of because it's a great benefit. Our Equitable presenter today is Kelly DeMay, Vice President, East Region. Before we get started, please note that participants are muted during the session, but we'll have some question and answer time following the presentation. If you have a question, just type it in the Q&A panel or in the chat box. And we are also recording the session, and it'll be available at sainies.org within a few days. And with that, I'll turn the presentation over to Kelly.
Thank you so much. So welcome everyone. I hope everybody is doing well. Happy Friday. Today I'm going to be talking about the interworkings of student loans and loan forgiveness, both for someone's own personal student loans that they might have taken out, but also talking about student loans for children that maybe a parent has taken out for a child, such as a Parent Plus loan. So we're going to be doing the interworkings and discussing kind of the moving parts of how all this works. And certainly if you have any questions, please feel free to wait to the end, as we will have a question and answer session. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kelly DeMay. I have been with Equitable for about 10 years at this point in time. And I was a school employee before I did this. I was actually a teacher and my mom was a school administrator. So growing up in understanding and working with school employees is something that I very personally know and understand. I left education and now I specialize in working with school employees. So really understanding employee benefits is my space related to school employees and working with them and their spouses. So certainly, I always have great appreciation as I have a degree of understanding of walking a mile in your shoes. And certainly I'm here to help navigate the waters surrounding how do you maximize all of your benefits, student loan being one of them. So today what I'm going to cover is just student loan basic information. So kind of going through just a 101 of loans, how things work, what interworkings of what to expect. I'm then going to talk about loan forgiveness programs. And the third piece of things I'm going to address is how to take action. So student loan basics, just talking about the interworkings of how things work. There's about $1.6 trillion in student loan debt out there. You know, one of the major components and challenges is that, as we all know, going to college costs money, and most people don't have a trust fund set up that is designed for that people have to take out student loans in order to advance their careers. That being said, student loan debt is far more substantial than auto loans, credit card debt, and educators in general, as far as people who take out student loans, are going to have a pretty substantial loan payment if they don't have a framework for how to manage their student loans and what the pros and cons of that look like. In the world of student loans, starting at a very 101 level, there are two types of student loans that exist: federal student loans and private student loans. A federal student loan is a student loan that was taken from the Department of Education. A private student loan is a loan that was taken from a private entity. For those of you who have student loan experience on the call and have dealt with the private entity, you know that this is a very difficult space. However, it's sometimes unavoidable. Where private loans come into the grand scheme of things is this: you get ready to go to college, your child gets ready to go to college, and you go to apply for financial aid, and you learn that you get $5,500 towards in a subsidized and unsubsidized student loan from the federal government. But college costs $20,000. So where does the differential of $14,500 come into play? Where does that come in? How do you figure that out if there's no 529 or extra savings to pay for that? That's where a private loan can come into play. Private loans are sometimes necessary and often very difficult and cumbersome to use. However, sometimes they are unavoidable. As far as loan forgiveness programs are concerned, there's a few of them out there that honestly most everybody is eligible for. About 84% of employees at schools are eligible for one or multiple student loan forgiveness programs. However, a lot of folks are unaware that those benefits exist. The first loan forgiveness program is called a Perkins loan forgiveness program. Perkins is a type of loan, and if you went to typically what I'll define as like a teacher college, they typically have Perkins loans available. However, if somebody has a Perkins loan, it's usually a very minimal balance. I don't usually see more than $4,000 in Perkins loan balances, but just be aware that if you have or had a Perkins loan, it can and is absolutely eligible to be forgiven. However, as I'm sure most of you are aware, if you're on this call, there's little to no support or education about how those loan forgiveness programs work, but that's where I come into play. There's also Federal Family Education Loans, FFEL loans. Long story short, and at the very highest level, FFEL loans are old student loans. They're student loans that someone took out most likely prior to 2008. So back in the day, not to date myself, but a long time ago when I went to college, I took out FFEL loans. That's what the loans were. That's what was available to me. It was not a debate or discussion. Those are loans where the loan guarantor is a bank. So it's not the Department of Education or the federal government. The person who's actually borrowing the student money might be Wells Fargo or Discover or Bank of America. There are now direct loans. All modern loans or loans after 2008 are direct loans. And that's where the loan guarantor is the Department of Education. You are literally borrowing money from the Department of Ed for college. Then there are Parent Plus loans. A Parent Plus loan is a loan that is taken out in the name of a parent for the purpose of helping their child with college. One major misconception I run into every day of my life, I meet with people and they say, hey, Kelly, I took out a Parent Plus loan. My child's now graduated. I'm ready to transfer it to my child's name. That is impossible. You cannot do that. Once you sign off on what's called the master promissory note for that Parent Plus loan, you own that loan. There's no transferring it to anyone. This is now your debt. All these loans are eligible to be forgiven, but there's different programs that are going to apply to those forgiveness options. The other scenario that I find that's extremely overwhelming is repayment plans. So long story short, when I went to college a long time ago, there was no exciting repayment plan options. How did I repay my loan? Well, once a month I got a bill. I tore off the ticket. I, brace yourself, wrote a check and mailed in my payment. That's just how it was done. There wasn't a discussion about repayment plan options. Like, I don't know what, they just sent me what I owed and I paid what I owed. Like, that was the end of the discussion. Now there are actually 9 different repayment options. So if you've got a child that's getting ready to graduate, or maybe you yourself are a graduate, the navigation of repayment plans is so vastly different than it used to be. And it can also be very overwhelming to determine which repayment plan should you be on in order to maximize your forgiveness situation as well as cash flow. So income-based repayment, or based on income, is a repayment plan that makes up of about 5 of these 9 repayment options. Those are repayment plans such as pay as you earn, income contingent, or income-based repayment. There are also other repayment plans not based on your income, graduated, extended, or standard programs in that space. What's the right one? Very situational. Please be noteworthy that what repayment plan you or your child should be on and what repayment plan somebody else and their child should be on are 2 very different answers. One of the biggest problems I run into in this space is people say to me, Kelly, I'm on this repayment plan. And I say, okay, what made you pick that? And they're like, oh, well, you know, Sue Smith, she's in the office next to me and she knows a lot about this. And that's what she told me to pick. And it's like, well, you know, No two loans are the same. No two situations are the same. You've got to really take a deep dive into your circumstances to know what's going to be the right fit. So one thing I'm going to circle back to is something called PSLF. PSLF stands for Public Service Loan Forgiveness. It is one of the forgiveness programs we're going to discuss today, and you must be on one of a few types of repayment plans specifically in order to be eligible. A standard repayment, income-driven repayment, but graduated repayments do not qualify, nor do extended payments or repayments. So just be aware, I'm going to circle back to this here in a few minutes as I talk about this loan forgiveness program, but some of this can be pretty persnickety as far as what it's requiring, and you've got to be educated about how this is going to work and pertain to your circumstances. Now let's do a deep dive into forgiveness. So the first loan forgiveness I'm going to talk about today is called teacher loan forgiveness. Teacher loan forgiveness says that if somebody works for 5 consecutive years in a Title I or a low income school, that at the end of 5 years, they're eligible to get a certain amount forgiven. As far as consecutive years of teaching, someone can be at multiple schools. So let's say someone worked at school A for 3 years and B for 2 years. That's fine as long as there was no break in employment. Family Medical Leave Act does not count against you in this break for employment. So I find it pretty fair. Now, if somebody worked for 3 years at school A and joined the circus for a year and then came back and worked at school B for 2 years, that was a break in employment. You've got to work for 5 consecutive years in the new school to be eligible. Also, there is a provision of this program that says if somebody has a certain type of student loan taken out prior to October 1st of 1998, they might be ineligible for this program. So just be aware that that is a catalyst or a component out there. Now, what does somebody get forgiven? Math or science teachers at the secondary level or special education teachers at any level receive $17,500 in forgiveness. Please note, you only need to be certified in these areas. You do not actually have to work in those areas. So let's say you taught 3rd grade for 6 years, became a school administrator, and now you're an assistant principal. As long as you were in a Title I school, because you were a teacher of something and you were special ed certified, you can still get $17,500 forgiven. It is contingent on the certification, not what you do. I'm not going to get into the details of why that is. It has to do with the definition of highly qualified. And I'm sure, as most of the people on the call are aware, the state of New York has different requirements for being considered highly qualified that the Department of Education respects and recognizes. So that way there's a little bit more flexibility. In the special education world, it's a more encompassing than just special education. As long as somebody is OT, PT, speech, a school psychologist, or a phys ed teacher, they are eligible to fall under that special education umbrella. Anybody else is going to get $5,000 forgiven. Now, that being said, everybody gets something, right? Like everybody can get some type of forgiveness. I do not make the rules as far as who gets what. The reason why math, science, and special education teachers get the higher forgiveness amount is a function of the Department of Education determining that those are hot areas of high need, and they want to give people an incentive to go work in those areas or get certified in those areas. But like I said, at least everyone gets something. As far as common issues, it can be complex. Many borrowers don't even know this option exists or how to enroll correctly. I mean, if you think about it, the Department of Education, they're not going to show up to your school and say, my God, you are just the greatest 5th grade teacher who is now an administrator we've ever had. We're going to give you loan forgiveness. No, they're not going to do that. It's not in their best interest to do that. You're going to have to jump through some hoops that can feel frustrating and overwhelming at the time, but it's absolutely achievable and doable. So definitely common issues are the process with applying for forgiveness. So many times I meet with people like every week of my life, and people say, well, I applied for forgiveness and I got denied. I'm not eligible. Statistically, 94% of people get denied the first time they apply because of egregious rules that the Department of Education associates with this. For example, if you apply and you date something 4/9/21, because that's today's date, you're going to get denied because the requirement for dating is 04-09-2021 must be in month, day, year with hyphens format. Silly? Yes. The rules? Yes. You got to play with the rules that you're given. Parent Plus loans are not eligible for this loan forgiveness program. So just be aware, if you took out a Parent Plus loan, you cannot get it forgiven under teacher loan forgiveness. The process with this is it's a 2-page application. It's pretty straightforward for the most part. There are some challenges there, but overall it takes about 5 weeks for someone to get forgiveness. I just applied with the local school administrator, and he let me know this week he got the forgiveness, and it was about 37 days from application to forgiveness amount. The second loan forgiveness program is called Public Service Loan Forgiveness. Public Service Loan Forgiveness is a relatively newer program. It's only been around for about 13 or 14 years. It's compared to teacher loan forgiveness. Teacher loan forgiveness has been around for 25 years, very, very long time. And just so that everyone is aware regarding this situation, in the history of these forgiveness programs, they have never, they being the Department of Ed, taken benefits away from people, meaning they've never compromised some of the promise. They've actually only had a history of giving additional benefits back. So one of the most common questions I get is, well, yeah, they're going to take this away. Probably not. Not in my experience. They've historically never done that. And if you think about it, a politician taking away their largest voting population's forgiveness program, pretty unlikely. So just so you know, the history of this is pretty sound and secure if you know how to navigate through the waters. Public Service Loan Forgiveness says that if somebody works full-time at any non-for-profit, public school, military, hospital, government agency, or a 501c3, that at the end of that period of time, if they meet a number of parameters for the duration of a 10-year time frame, that at the end of that frame of time, the balance of the student loan can actually be forgiven. Now, let me do a deep dive into those parameters. Those parameters range from simple to complicated. Simple, you got to work full-time. Full-time is considered 30 hours a week. Also, it doesn't matter what your title is. You could be a lunch lady all the way up to a superintendent, any person in between, and still be eligible. You've got to have a specific type of loan called a direct loan. If you don't have direct loans, you can get direct loans. It's easy, free, and a pretty seamless process to do that. You just need to convert your type of loan. You have to make 120 on-time payments. Ready for this one? Brace yourself. An on-time payment is a payment described as not made more than 14 days prior, nor 5 days after the date the loan is due. So every day of my life, I meet with people and they say, Kelly, I'm paid ahead like 4 months on my student loans. I like to get that paid early. And I think, no, don't do that. You are hurting yourself and your forgiveness eligibility. An on-time payment is not early or late. It is on time. So be mindful. Little thing, you just need to set up auto pay. It's simple. But if you don't know what you're doing, you could be hurting yourself by, quite frankly, being a prudent American. I know that sounds odd, but it's how the forgiveness works. And then the last component is somebody needs to be on a special repayment plan, Like I had mentioned previously, there's 9 different repayment options, and someone must be on one of 5 of those 9 repayment plans for the duration of 10 years to be eligible for get the forgiveness. Whew, sounds like a lot, and it can be. The other frustration is you call the loan holder and you go through that rigmarole and bureaucracy and you feel like you're getting nowhere fast. Yep. There's a way to manipulate that to your benefit, but it's a little bit of a different conversation. But if you're just calling a 1-800 number hoping to get guidance, you're probably going to come up disappointed, frustrated, and give up. That happens a lot. How much is forgiveness? How much is forgiven on the loans? Well, it varies from person to person. But your balance is forgiven at the end of 10 years if you meet these qualifications. If your balance is $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, the balance is forgiven. It's not relevant. So there's no limit on what can be forgiven, and that forgiveness is tax-free. Now, you probably are saying in your head right now, oh God, I've heard about this program and like 1% of people are eligible. This doesn't apply to me. Listen, this is a newer program, relatively speaking. I said this program came out in 2008. If you think about it, 10 years puts us at 2018. We're just starting to see loan forgiveness. So yeah, that was true that very few people were eligible, but that's because they weren't eligible. They didn't have enough time in yet. Nobody did. So where you might feel discouraged or hear a lot in the news about this, just know that there is a lot of help and support that exists out there that you can navigate these waters totally appropriately. Now, common issues that come up, and full disclosure, there's a healthy amount of common issues. It's complicated. People every day of my life are like, but I've done 4 of the 6 things, Kelly. I'm fine, right? That's enough. No. This isn't a program where some of your ducks can be in a row and you're fine. All of your ducks must be in a row in order for this to be eligible for 10 years. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, hope is not a strategy. Every day people say to me, I think I'm doing that loan. I think I'm doing the loan forgiveness thing. Oh, that's scary. That is hope. You've got to be confident and know, not use hope. How you file your taxes and if you get married can dramatically impact this program, potentially for the negative. If you're somebody who's thinking you're going to get married or whatever the case is, changing how you file your taxes, you need to talk to me so we can get a game plan. It's absolutely able to be worked around, not really a problem. It's not hard to do, but no one's going to call you and tell you how to work around it. You're going to have to work through that yourself. And I find that if you even call like the 1-800 number scenario, like they don't even know the workaround. So you got to work with an expert on this. Parent Plus loans. Okay, so I'm going to take just a minute to talk about this because I do want time. I want to block time for questions. A Parent Plus loan in itself is not eligible to be forgiven. However, you can convert a Parent Plus loan into a direct consolidation loan and be eligible to get that loan forgiven. So if you say, hey, I've had Parent Plus loans for 6 years, I'm good, Kelly. No, you're not. We got to get you into the right loan type, which is not a problem to do, but we need to do that today. You are burning time. So if you've got Parent Plus loans, there's a lot of nuanced, different rules with those that you need to be aware of. You need to work with somebody who knows what the heck they're doing because you are going to navigate through muddy waters on that one and find it very challenging. How you can take action after you or your child is done with school. Get online with your servicer. Your servicer is probably going to be Fed Loan Servicing, which is a good thing. They're the best servicer. If you have Great Lakes, they're a pretty good company. They do a good job. If you have Nelnet or Naviant, we probably need to change that. You can change your loan servicer at any time. Very easy to do. It's free of charge. You just got to know how to jump through the hoops. You need to evaluate What should you do for loan forgiveness? Teacher loan forgiveness, Perkins loan, public service, all of them, some of them, none of them? What's the right fit? Depends on your situation. Every situation is different, but you need to be prepared with what that looks like. So let's look at a couple case studies really quickly as I wrap up. So we've got Kayla. She makes $40,000 a year. She's 23. She's got $96,000 in student loan. This is a common thing. This is modern America, unfortunately, related to the cost of college. If she pays a 10-year standard repayment plan, she's going to pay about $800 a month. If she goes on an income-driven repayment plan, she'll pay about $214 a month. And as long as she meets all the other requirements, works full-time, whole 9 yards, she's going to be eligible to get loans forgiven and have a lower monthly payment today and still get about $70,000 in forgiveness. So you're probably saying, Kelly, this is too good to be true. A lower monthly payment by almost $600 a month and loan forgiveness? What? It doesn't make sense. Yep, that's correct. I'm not saying it ever made sense. That was never like my argument in all of this. I am saying that this is how the whole thing works. Then we've got Jack. He makes $106,000 a year. He's 48. He's got $184,000 in student loans. His monthly repayment would be about $1,500 a month. If he goes on income driven, it's going to be about $850 a month. Get his monthly savings of $680 and still be eligible to get that loan forgiven. This is real. I've gotten over $3 million in student loans forgiven. And many people, I do this presentation every year for Sainies. Everybody, every year, I always get somebody 6 figures of loan forgiveness on these Sainies calls. It could be you. You never know. So what can we do for next steps? Admittedly, Equitable advisors in your local offices may have knowledge on the student loan process. I am definitely the student loan expert. This is my space. I'm the student loan expert because when I didn't have a whole lot of student loans. I was a SUNY kid. I went to SUNY Plattsburgh a long time ago. And but when I met my significant other, he had about $144,000 in student loan debt. And I realized I had to get this figured out for what was potentially my future's sake. And it all worked out. I figured it out, but that's why I know about this, is because at some point in time, somebody that I cared about had a lot of skin in the game for I had got to get a game plan for everything. Okay, so I'm going to pivot to Q&A. There have been some questions that came up. Okay. One question. If you're a principal for 5 years in a qualifying school and you've not taught in that school, do you still have access? My experience is yes. I've never had an issue with that. You got to know, like I said, how to jump through the hoops accordingly. It's a little bit of a different process to fill out the application. That's fine. There's a couple questions about how you can get in touch with me. What I am going to do is I'm going to send out an email to all the participants on today's call, either later today or tomorrow. But if you want to write it down, my email address is Kelly, Kelly, .demay, DEMAY, @equitable.com. It is first come, first serve. If you are interested in connecting with me sooner rather than later, it helps to get the email to me sooner. So kelly.demay @equitable.com. But like I said, I will reach out to everybody who is on this call. Consolidation of loan question, very complicated answer. It can screw things up. It can make things work perfectly. I typically don't have too much of an issue for it, but it definitely comes up. Congrats to the first person who just emailed me. Thank you very much. I will get back to you ASAP. COVID loan forgiveness or COVID loan deferment. Hi, Shannon. Due to COVID, student loan payments are put on hold. That does not have any impact on student loan forgiveness. It actually helps you. These 0 payments count towards loan forgiveness. So there's no concern or risk you are running there. As of right now, loans are set to be repaid starting in October of this year. It could be pushed off again. It hasn't been a number of times thus far. If anybody has questions about the future Biden loan forgiveness, at this point, your guess is as good as mine. We'll see what happens. The White House is yet to call me and ask me for my opinion on what they should do. And I don't think that's coming. So I don't know. They're still in the very early stages of Biden loan forgiveness and what that could be or could not be. I was told that Consolidate is not a good term you to try and combine your loans. Is that true? I've never heard of that. It's called in the Department of Education, it's called apply for a loan consolidation. I'm using their language. I use Fed loan servicing. Any issues I need to be worried about? I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer to that. Maybe. My advice would be, if you feel like you're in a good place, just email me and we could do a 10-minute phone call and I'll be able to ask you 7 questions and be able to say you're good to go or you have a problem. Like I said, I'd just be a little bit cautious about using hope. I hope I'm in the right place, or I think I'm doing the right thing. Never hurts to get a second opinion just to make sure. And certainly, like I said, 10-minute phone call, I'd be happy to help anybody and give you any insight you might need. Parent Plus loan convert to a private loan. Great question. Unfortunately, we should have talked sooner. You are not eligible for any loan forgiveness. I'm sorry.
Kelly, it looks like we also have some questions in the Q&A panel. If you'd like me to read those, or you can just take it away, whichever you prefer.
Okay. What if you attained a debt for a different education degree, but were a special education teacher? Doesn't matter. They don't care if you got your degree in basket weaving, not relevant what your degree is in. No worries about that one, Jen. Parent Plus loans. Kid finishes college. If the loan is not transferable, what does a parent have to do to have a student loan in the kid's name and be off the hook? There is no answer. You can't, there's no option in that. Sorry, not a good answer for that one. Can't do it. Applications for teacher loan forgiveness or public service can all be found on the website studentaid.gov. There is no income limit for teacher loan forgiveness, and income is not relevant as far as being eligible for that program. You find out if your payments qualify for PSLF by completing an employment certification form, which can also be sought on studentaid.gov. Highly recommend do that proactively. I'm going through a lot of forgiveness with people right now under this, and it helps tremendously to get that done ahead of time, not at the time of forgiveness. Let's be proactive, not reactive. COVID payments or COVID deferment of payments has no impact on any loan forgiveness whatsoever. It's totally fair. If you have been paying your loan all along, you need to call me because we need to go get your money back. Which you can do, it's very easy, but there's no sense in paying extra on that one. Please call me ASAP. I'll put my phone number in the chat. Sorry, that was not my full phone number. If I can't get back to you today, I will get back to you tomorrow. For public service, what about LEO? I'm sorry, I don't know what an LEO is. Gina, if you want to email me, we could talk. Private loans through AES. Private loans, once you are there, you cannot switch them to federal. We can work to get a better deal. You cannot get them forgiveness. I would be careful about making extra payments during COVID. It could make sense to do that, not if you go the public service loan forgiveness route, Levi. Next question, what if I am not able to afford payments and wage garnishment started? There's a very easy way for us to get out of that at a very manageable cost. Call me, that's going to take a little bit of time, but I can help you. Shoot me an email. Law enforcement officer, is that, it depends on the, so going back for public service, a law enforcement officer, once again, it doesn't matter what your title is, you're eligible for public service as long as you work for a qualifying employer full time. Yes, educators qualify for public service loan forgiveness. You could work at the wealthiest or the unwealthiest school and you're eligible. If you lock yourself into a plan now, will you still be able to take advantage of the Biden plan? I don't know. So they're still really in the early stages of development on this. I can't believe any politician, especially Joe Biden, because I have faith that Joe Biden is pretty supportive of this. It's going to negatively impact, but it's too early for me to say in all fairness at this time. So I want to make sure that I want to let everybody know I don't have any insight on that I think would be relevant in this moment, because like I said, it seems to change frequently. For Parent Plus loans conversion, you need to convert that Parent Plus loan to a direct consolidation loan. So just be mindful of that. I am typing my email address and I already typed in my phone number into the chat. Shoot me an email. I am pretty booked this afternoon, but I will get back to you, I promise, before the weekend's out, and we will schedule a time to meet, either via video call or via the phone, whatever you'd prefer. Anybody have any questions? I'm going to retype my email and phone number.
Kelly, it may be that it's just going to panelists rather than panelists and attendees.
Okay. Forgive my flippant answer, but in the Q&A, can I type in? The last Q&A I'm responding to with my contact info. I don't exactly know if that's going to work, so my apologies. Can I consolidate Naviant loans into direct loans? Yes, very easy to do. You do it through the studentaid.gov website. Literally the hardest part of the process is figuring out a username and password. I know that sounds silly, but it's the only challenge. To clarify for PSLF, you will need to be on 10-year income-driven repayment plan the whole time. Yes, though a standard repayment plan is also eligible. So they have a little bit more flexibility outside of that. Stacy Reed, I'm going to respond to you directly. Okay.
Okay, does it, it looks like we're all set. Do you see any others, Kelly?
I think that we're good to go.
Okay, great.
So thank you so much. Certainly we'll connect and we'll see what we can do. Okay.
Great. And if anyone has any other questions, you can also go to the SANES website to contact your local Equitable representatives with any other questions. And thanks again, Kelly, and have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you.